The year is 1415. Years of civil war have driven the Kingdom of England into political turmoil. For the young King Henry V, securing the throne after the death of his father is of the utmost importance. In seeking to solidify his rule, Henry targets the French crown, sailing for Normandy in the spring of 1415 and besieging the French city of Harfleur. However, the siege lasts far longer than the king anticipated, and by the time the city has surrendered, his army was diminished and starving. In order to escape with the lives of his men, they march for the English-held city of Calais, all while being harassed by a growing army of French knights. Just when Calais was in sight, and his men could look forward to a return to England, the French sprung their trap, cornering Henry near a small town in the French countryside, named Agincourt.
For 30 years I have been on this earth, but never have I seen a single knight that could age me 30 more. It appears that God, through his divine judgment, played his hand for the French today, as our retreat to Calais has been cut off by the French army. Nearly 300,000 knights have settled themselves across the field from us, and though they harassed us from Harfleur, I could never have imagined the size of the French response to my campaign. But now, as the rain continues to fall for yet another night, my tired, starving, and disease-ridden army lacks for more than just food and confidence. We lack for priests, as every man in my host has gone to cleanse his conscience in preparation for the morrow's bloody sun. 10,000 followed the banner of old England, but now we are less than half of what we were. We may have been able to beat back the French at Crécy all those years ago, but our army then far outnumbered the paltry sum we have today. I can only ask, perhaps beg, that the men stand until the end, so that they may be remembered forever. What will tomorrow bring us, O Lord? I might pray a while for thy deliverance. Yes, deliver us, O Lord.
His Grace is troubled, and why shouldn't he be? A couple thousand knights have positioned themselves between us and safety. Yet he has declared that he would rather die than be taken for ransom. Brave words. It's great for the men to hear, but what happens when we've shot our last arrows, and the French horse tears our lines apart like parchment? Who knows if we'll even get to our last arrows? We've been out of food for 2 weeks, having to scrounge for berries and fish in the streams. Mind, the fish haven't been a treat either. Those watery vermin have played merry hell with the humors of our men, and the bloody flux has got them shitting their brains out all along the column. That is until they run out of things to shit, and then they shit their lives away right on the side of the road. Not a good way to go. I've been a bowman since I were a wee lad. Every Sunday, 3 hours at the bow, just like every man near me. This is life for us. I wish it weren't about to end for us tomorrow.
Nous pouvons, nos camarades, et triomphe! A great day will rise with the sun tomorrow, for France and Le Chevalier. I have seen 2 other battles in my life. It's a horrible bloody mess, but the first blood spilt for a knight is his greatest honor. Some of these knights have yet to taste English steel and cut into English bowmen, but I can't imagine they'll get much of a fight here. We've whipped these dogs since Harfleur, making them pay for every step they take towards Calais. These unworthy English fight without honor or courage, though some of our ranks still insist on devoting their night of revelry to planning in what ways to crush these dogs. Like this one over here.
Jean-Philippe de Valence. I was wondering where I might find you.
Marshal du Breton, why'd you bother planning with this battle? The English are outnumbered, tired, and dying in the road. We can run them down with just you and I alone.
Perhaps, but it is unwise to underestimate these men, especially their bowmen. Remember the defeat at Crécy. I will not make the same mistake as those armies did all those years ago.
You merely lack the courage. Our chivalric honor will carry the day as it has always done.
I hope so, Sir de Valence, for your sake. Old fool. If he hadn't been elevated by the king, he wouldn't even be allowed near our table. What could those English possibly do? They sit behind their wooden spikes and pick at us with their bows, too afraid to meet us lance to lance. Ever since the war banner, the Oriflamme, was unfurled from the Abbey of the King, the fate of these English dogs has been sealed. Were it were day, then we could see how well these vermin die. But tonight we shall toast to our glorious victory, and to their mortal fate.
Can't those pompous Frenchies get online a little later? None of us got much sleep, so we'd all prefer a bit more. Though I think I'd rather get this over with quick. That bastard hornblower's been going for some time now, and I'd really like to put a bodkin through his mouth. I don't think his grace ever got to sleep last night. Trying to plan a battle with odds like ours? Can't imagine what that must be like. Frankly, I am amazed that he is still here. I heard someone say that he could wish himself up to the Thames River if he wanted to. So why would he ever stay here? Perhaps he has a death wish. Perhaps he's too brave for his own words. Well, one thing's for sure. If he managed to knock the shite out of the Welsh, then he might just give the French a good fight. Or at least us a memorable death. That's what I would like to offer these men with me, but I fear ignominy is all that they have to look forward to. I have dedicated my lords to the battle, so ransom is out of the question. I heard Exeter this morning say that the odds were about 5-1 against fresh knights. Dare I say, but ransom wouldn't be such a bad idea at this moment. But by the grace of God, I will see this battle to the end, victory or death. I just pray that my ancestors are smiling down on me today. Edward the Black Prince would certainly have been a helpful ally at this moment. But I would never think to be so lucky as to receive aid from the dead. A sign from heaven would certainly raise the spirits of my men, but it has been raining for 3 days. Barely even a scratch of sunlight. Perhaps this will give us an advantage against those horses, however. If we can close the gap. Our French causes call us. Now's the time for our baptism, deliverance, and possible end. Whether to heaven or to hell, I ride. The red dawn of the sun draws its beams upon the world as these armored foes prepare the day. In the early hours of St. Crispin's, the English army, positioned at the neck of 2 forests, hammers their wooden stakes in the mud and strings their bows. On the opposite side of the field, the French soldiers and their cavalry form 3 great battalions, with the intention of outflanking and destroying the English army totally. Of their numbers, the French total close to 60,000 fully armored knights, whereas the English could only muster a mere 6,000 bowmen. Denery, appropriate to our ranks, we gather at the threshold. I was not able to see the full extent of our forces last night, though I could not wait another second to take the heads off those damned English dogs. With all the worthy knights who are gathered here now, our chivalric victory is all but assured, and their death sweet. We have but charged bravely and boldly. Stand firm, lads! If they want these fingers, they can come and get them. Bravely and boldly is the way, lads. Pick out your man and loose your shaft when he's in range. The boys are chilled to the bone. Some band of brothers we are so bravely stand against an army of cavalry. But with the stakes in the dirt and our arrows knocked, There is nothing more we can do but loose everything we have. If they're as dumb as His Majesty says, then they'll come charging right into our arrows. The boys have been working them up over there. Said they'd cut off our bow fingers if they'd capture us. Well, they can come and get them, can't they? How dare they insult us? A knight does not have his bravery questioned by filth. I heard one of the sirs threaten those archers that we would cut their fingers off if we captured them. Now far better to put a lance through their hearts and be done with them. Enough of the caution! Enough of the strategies! Enough with the waiting! I will tear them apart now! Give me that horn! The time is here! Lay on, you noble warriors! In the name of God! Charge! Here they come, lads! Draw! Loose!
And so, as the 11th hour struck, the English taunts and goading proved too much for the French knights. Against the orders of their commanders, the knights charged head-on at the English bowmen, only to be met with swarms of arrows cutting down both horse and rider. As the French cavalry was cut to ribbons, the rest of the dismounted knights poured into the melee, only to be met with the same darkened sky of arrows. As the English lines held firm, panic began to spread through the French, as more and more men began to crush the knights into each other. Trampling and falling into the mire made by the previous night's rain began to take its toll. After several minutes of combat, and having expended their arrows, the English longbowmen abandoned their bows and waded into the fray with sword, axe, and hammer. In a little less than an hour, the warrior elite of Europe had been reduced to bloodied corpses and dishonored prisoners.
Eternal shame. What eternal shame it is to be defeated by such unworthy Englishmen. The chivalrous charge that was made could have crushed any army, but God has thought fit to punish us for our lack of courage. To be sold for a ransom by such filthy peasants is but a double shame. The annals of my family will forever remember this defeat, and our honor will forever be besmirched. Perhaps a counterattack by some of our remaining knights. Our victory may yet be at hand. Dear God, they've returned. One of their army must have rallied the last of their knights to drive us from the field. I'm not sure we will be able to take another attack. No, what if they free our prisoners? What if we are attacked from the rear? Our lines will crumble, and then we'll all be killed. You, Yeoman Hartzell. Yes, my lord. Let the cry go out. Kill your prisoners! Defend the line! It will be done, my lord! You heard the king! Kill them all! By what cruel trick of God was this battle decided? The good Duke of Brabant saw fit to hound the enemy into submission with one final charge. But the English, who had been at the business of slaughtering us with their bows, drove him back to the lines with his men. Our failure is compounded, were it not for these English and their barbarism. When the Duke's attack came, the cry went out to kill the prisoners. Men were cut down where they lay, and some were gathered to be executed at once by fire. I was among them. They took us to a barn and locked us inside as they set it ablaze. I, still bound, was able to make an escape, but I was then recaptured and sold to the Earl of Suffolk. Perhaps now I would have rather died than to live haunted by the estranged souls of my comrades who burned to their end in that barn. God have mercy on their souls, and welcome them to the arms of paradise as your noble warriors. For it is the least that could have been done for their wronged souls. The day is ours. But why does it feel as though we've lost right along with the French? It's the same after every battle. The bitter silence. the stench of rot that hits to your very soul. Of all the battles that I have witnessed, never have I seen such slaughter as this. A mountain of corpses piled in front of our lines, so high that we can barely see the top. His Majesty has let the cry ring out that the French knights will not be food for the crows tonight, and that our boys will help bury what's left of them. 'Tis strange, this. But many of those knights died behind our lines, all expecting a large sum of money to break them from our jails. Not like they would have gotten that far. Had the final counterattack not finished them, they'd have probably sprung up and killed every last one of us. Because, you know, we're not worth much to them. Not much at all. By the grace of God, we have won the day, as costly as it was. The herald hath told me today's bloody count. 6,000 French warriors lay on the field, whereas only 400 of our men lay with them. It seems today that I have truly won the crown of England. However, perhaps we shall see that these noble knights are given a proper burial. It is the least we could do for these noblemen here, who fought believing God would give them the strength against our bows and our swords. I pray that this war that has outlived my father and grandfather may end here today with the shattered spears of this army. When these French are buried at the end of the day, we shall make for Calais and the Isle of England. These men have earned their sixpence today, and will eternally remember this field of Agincourt as the place they crowned themselves with eternal glory.